I've been thinking about something today. I don't know if I've spoken about this exact topic previously, but it's been gestating in my mind. This is looking like it's going to be a problem. All right. I'm not going to touch that again. So anyway, I'll explore it with you guys and we'll see where we go. I think that there's two fundamental ways to view the world. And generally, we like to blame our parents for all of our problems. Have you guys ever do that? I think the more wealthy a group of people are, the more likely it is that they have the time to invest in really trying to blame their parents for all their problems. If you're low down on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you're just trying to feed yourself, you don't really have that much free time to resent people because you're just trying to eat. And then sometimes people freak out about the caste system in India, although there was caste systems all over the world, and there still are. We have them in this country. Based on whether or not you're educated and what your parents do and how much money you have, whether you're nouveau riche or whether you're from old money and what school you went to. And we're also divided strongly along racial lines in this country. You can drive through different parts of town and you see functional ghettos where people of one ethnic background flock together. But anyway, the caste system in India gets ripped on a lot. But they've been trying to get rid of the caste system in India for thousands of years. Like our people have been trying to get rid of it for thousands of years. And then the Pope tried to get rid of it. The Muslims tried to get rid of it. Everybody's trying to get rid of the caste system in India. They have the most aggressive affirmative action on the planet. In 1947, the first Supreme Court justice was a Dalit, was an untouchable. That term, Dalit, also is a modern term. You guys are familiar with this term, Dalit? It's a term for the untouchable caste. But the old term's only been around for 150 years or so. It's become sort of a catch-all phrase, an umbrella term for every downtrodden person. But the first Supreme Court justice in India was from a Dalit family. Hated Hinduism, stopped Sanskrit from being named the national language of India. India speaks Hindi, which is 70% Urdu. It's from the Muslims. And because this guy hated Sanskrit. Became a Buddhist, but nonetheless, he was elected as Supreme Court Justice. His name was Ambedkar. Very, very famous. You stay ready to pivot. All right? Thank you. So then they had Indira Gandhi in the 60s, a female prime minister. We still haven't had that in the U.S. They've had Muslim prime ministers, multiple Muslim prime ministers, and the Muslims represent like 11% of the population, depending on when you're looking, which is roughly the same amount. It's roughly the black population of the U.S. And we just got a black president like a decade ago, but they had Muslim presidents going back 50 years. But one of the reasons why you can't get rid of the caste system in India is because if you are a member of a particular caste, No matter what the government, the government is so aggressive in India, they have parliament seats that are put aside for people from different castes, scheduled castes and tribes. Think about it. Imagine if our Congress had a certain amount of seats for black people and a certain amount of seats for Mexican people, and if you couldn't run, they were reserved for you. Imagine that. That's what's going on in India. Their affirmative action, it's called a system of reservations, is so much more aggressive than anything we've ever had. And it's been like that since the 40s, since Jim Crow was still in effect in this country. I don't know. I want the door open. I'm thinking like COVID, something like that. But I doubt it's going to get less as time goes on. The Pope tried to get rid of the caste system in India. They converted a bunch of people to Christianity, and they said now during these Catholic holy days you all have to eat together. And then when they said this is a feast day of our saints and you all have to sit together and eat, and because those groups never ate together, they all converted back to Hinduism. This happened in the 1800s. All right, close it. It's not going to make any difference, but we're just going to at least feel like I'm doing something. They couldn't get rid of the caste. Now they have a Muslim caste system. The Muslims are going to get rid of the caste system. They ruled India for 1,000 years, killed 100 million people, but they were going to liberate India. And they now they have a Muslim caste system. Can you trace your family origin back to the Middle East, or are you a convert from India? The converts from India were usually the poor people who couldn't afford to pay the jizya, the tax you had to pay in order to be a Hindu, and so then they became Muslims because it freed them from the extra taxation you had to suffer to be a Hindu living under Muslim rule when the Muslims ruled India. So they have a caste system based on whether you can trace your lineage back to the Middle East or not. The Christians still follow it. It's like you can't get rid of it. The reason you can't get rid of it is because when you are trying to put food in your belly and your dad was a street sweeper, and so guaranteed in your village you get to sweep the streets and you get to eat and you get to feed your family and no one can take that away from you, or you're the blacksmith. You ever wonder why people have names like shoemaker and blacksmith and stuff like that? Smith. The name Smith meant you were a blacksmith or some other type of smith. You were named after what you did. And so, then you were in the village. That you had that right. No one could take that away from you. You had guaranteed employment. It was almost like being a member of a union. And so you don't want to give up the union because the union gets you guaranteed employment, puts food on the table. Anyway, the more money you get, the more freedom people have to choose what they want to do instead of what's going to put food in their mouth. And then the more time they can spend hating their parents for making their life miserable. Because in the beginning, you're just trying to eat and trying not to get killed. Do you guys follow this? The death rate's gone. The death rate's always the same. It's 100%. Everybody dies. But the death rate, people are dying older than they did, let's say, 100 years ago. But it's not just because modern medicine has saved everybody's life. It's because everybody used to die in wars. And now, we don't die in wars as much as we used to, and so people live for longer because they're not dying. So if you're going to have to die in a war, girls get married younger because they have to have kids because their guys are going to go off and die in battle in their mid-20s. You got to keep the race going on. And so everything just sort of starts earlier. But now, not everybody's not dying. And so everybody puts it off. They have families much later on. They can study subjects in college that they never end up using. They can reinvent themselves a few times, have a few marriages, and spend a lot of time blaming your parents for all that's wrong with you. Do you follow this? At a certain point, I don't know what the cutoff is, but at a certain point, we have to start taking responsibility for why we are the way we are. Even children, if children commit crimes, they don't get punished as much as adults, but it's not that we don't consider children to be moral agents. If an 8-year-old sadistically murders somebody, they're going to spend some time in some kind of facility. 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 13, 14, if it's heinous enough, they try as an adult. It's not that we don't consider children to be moral agents. We don't consider them to be as responsible. Maybe below a certain age. I don't know what the age should be, 6 or 7 or 8. They have almost no responsibility in the eyes of the law. But then we start to hold them accountable on some level. They have some moral agency. They can make some choices. They have some free will. But, it's quite common now. People are in their 50s and 60s, and they're blaming their parents for everything that ever went wrong in their life. But even a 13-year-old wouldn't get away with blaming their parents for everything. You following me? Even a 13-year-old has some moral agency and some responsibility, but people are living longer, there's a lot more freedom, and so you can sit around and blame your folks. Am I painting a picture for you guys? All right. So, the two basic ways of viewing the world, and we have the responsibility for owning how we want to view the world. We can't blame somebody else. We can't blame our environment or our genetics. We have some free will. We can choose how we want to process things and move with things, and how we want to deal with things, what life throws at us. So there's two basic ways to look at the world. You guys know what they are? You're smiling and nodding your head. What are they?
Half empty, half full.
Half empty, half full? Not bad. That's pretty good. That's good. I'll take that for $1. Yeah. Half empty, half full. Anybody want to add to that or adjust that or add, say something else? Two basic ways of viewing the world. Yeah.
Either things are happening to me or things are happening for me.
All right, things happening to me or they're happening for me. You guys are, I guess, I don't know, you live on social, and so your brains only formulate one-liners. Half full, half empty. Happening to me, happening for me. You guys are incapable of forming complete sentences, but you have cool, nifty, meme-like ideas floating around in your noggins that you just deploy out and weaponize. Professional koan makers over here. Anyway, I like them both, by the way. Yeah, let's keep going.
I'm responsible for my life, or someone or something else is responsible for my life.
Yeah, all right. That would be just straight from what I was saying, right? You good? To me, and that flows nicely with to me and for me, and actually that's a half empty, half full. Those ideas all exist in a sphere together. They all overlap on some level. They're a little different, but they all overlap. They're good. All of them are good. More? And you spoke in complete sentences, so I appreciate that. Yeah.
You can also view that everything that happens is either just from chaos or...
All right, chaos or a reason. That's another really good one. There's a reason, a telos, a purpose behind the world. Or it's all just chaotic. It's another good one. Also in the same family. Yes? As a victim or as a director. That's great. So you're responsible or you're a victim. It's happening to you or it's happening for you. That's great. You're all in the same universe. It's all good stuff. More? Yes.
What she said. I know everything or there's more to learn.
All right. Yeah, that's a downside of knowing everything is you got nothing more to learn. You wander through life with an armor on and things don't go in. If you're not vulnerable, then you don't grow. Good. Good. No, you don't get to do a twofer. Yeah.
I was thinking along the lines of I'm a human having a spiritual experience.
That's like straight off of Oprah,
I
dude.
know, but like,
You're a human having a spiritual experience, or you're a spirit having a human experience. All right. I mean, we got more. Yeah.
This world like is the pinnacle. This is it.
This is it, materialist, or there's something else. So I'm about this world, or I'm about that world. That's what she said, but in a little less kitschy way. It's all right. You're with him, like the one-liners. You guys are part of the same tribe. But then he sort of fleshed that out a little bit. That's good. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
see things as being predestined.
All right, predestined, or you got free will. That very much is similar to what I was saying. That's good. That pulls from what I was saying. That's great. Yeah.
You're either a theist or an atheist.
All right, that's a materialist or a spiritualist, a human having a spiritual experience, or a spirit having a human experience. You're either a theist or an atheist. That's good stuff. I don't think it's a mere repetition of what he said. It's actually an extension of what Rukta said. It's good. These are all good answers. Is this your own answer, or are you a megaphone for your mom again? All right, what do you got?
You're either fundamentally born bad with sin or
Oh, that's another good one, right? I'm born broken or I'm born pure. You guys are impressing me. I haven't heard a bad one yet. Generally, about 70% of the stuff you guys come up with is drivel. But we're batting 1,000 a night. It's like something special in the air. I don't know. Like pumping something in through the vent. But you guys are like, these are all good answers. Like, I'm like wowed by every single one.
Sure heard that, so.
Everybody's bringing their A game, right? I mean, from cup is half full to cup is half empty. And what did you say? You. No.
you're either fundamentally born sin.
Yeah, you're either bad or you're fundamentally good. Every single one in between, and those two as well, they were all excellent contenders. Like big stuff, not small ideas, big ideas. Where people veer one way or the other. More? Yeah.
Sense pleasure brings happiness, or doing your duty brings happiness.
All right, so you got like a results-based ethic versus a duty-based ethic. That's another biggie. Another big one. Anything else? Yes. Oh, you get the twofer though. All right.
I don't know if this is the correct answer, but like,
There is no correct answer.
you only live once versus it being reincarnated.
YOLO. Versus just now coming around again. Okay, sure. That this is it versus this is not it. Good. Good. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a result of nature or a result of nurture.
The nurture versus nature argument. Is it my genetics or is it the way I was raised? That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
I live for my family versus I live for whatever I want.
All right. Selfish versus selfless. It's good stuff. These are all, you guys have not disappointed. These are all winners. Yeah, no, that's it. You got yours. All right, Ella.
Everything that happens to me is bad luck versus I get everything that I deserve.
The idea that I get what I deserve versus I'm a victim of circumstance. It's a little different than what everybody else has said, but it's in that same family as a few answers we've had like that. That's good. Here's what I've been thinking. I've been thinking there's two real ways to view the world. One of them is that you're grateful. Now let's define gratitude. What is gratitude? I'm going to tell you. Gratitude is the idea that I've gotten more than I deserve. It's a sense of voluntary indebtedness, and you feel that you've received more than your just deserts. You feel you've received more than you deserve You feel like you were blessed, you were given more than you earned, than you deserved, than you had coming your way naturally. That's option A. And what's option B? Entitlement. I deserve everything I get, and it can even get into like I deserve more. Entitlement sort of knows no limit. You follow? It knows no limit. Like whatever you get, you deserve that. Like if you pay a fighter X amount of money to fight, and then his next fight he wants that much money or more. He never says, "Oh, I want less money next fight." You never want less money. You never like come into work and you're like, "Oh, I deserve less money for my job. You guys aren't making as much money. I deserve less money. Can you pay me less money?" Nobody thinks like that. They're always thinking that I'm going to get regular increases and make more money. So there's two ways to view the world. I deserve everything that comes my way, good. Or I'm getting way more than what I deserve. Now, gratitude is never towards circumstance. The emotion of gratitude is always felt towards a person. If it's just chance, then you're not really grateful. You're lucky. Things went your way, but they could have just as easily not gone your way, and it was totally a chance. But the idea of gratitude is that somebody looked out for you and helped you out and gave you a leg up and did more than what you deserved. You guys following this? I've been thinking about this. I don't think there's a way to feel grateful to a thing or a machine. You might even be able to say that in language, like I'm grateful that my car's working. But you're not actually grateful your car's working. You're grateful that somebody gave you a car, or that your car, like that there's like the laws of the universe worked in your favor and somebody gave you the nod and like cut you some slack. I don't actually think the emotion of gratitude is felt towards things or circumstances. And if it is felt towards a thing or a circumstance, behind that idea is a basic notion of theism, that there's a creator or a power above you that's looking out for you and helping you out. Did you guys follow this? Anyone want to challenge me on this? I've done some thinking on this. You want to challenge me on this, Nick?
You answered my challenge by saying there's a basic notion of theism.
All right, good. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to troubleshoot it on the front end before you guys could run too far. I ran down the rabbit hole so you guys wouldn't have to. You might say, I'm grateful my car is working. There's nothing wrong with that sentence in English. But there's a basic notion of theism that like my car shouldn't necessarily work, but it does work. And like it's like I've been favored somehow more than I deserve. If it's just that the dice rolled my way this time and I'm happy about the dice rolling my way, that's not gratitude. Gratitude has within it the basic notion that you deserved A, but you got A plus. You follow? And that means somebody skewed it in your favor. Now, you can be grateful towards your parents or your children or God, whatever, but it's towards a person. You guys wrap your head around this? Anybody want to argue this with me? Okay. And the opposite of gratitude is entitlement. And there's even worse. Like I said, entitlement is this sort of, it's like a endless pit. That no matter what you put into it, nobody ever did you a favor. And you deserve every single thing you got. And you're not grateful to anybody. And whatever people like throw your way, you just sort of swallow it up like a black hole and then ask for more. You could the more you go down that dark road, that endless pit of entitlement, it starts to become a fundamental bitterness and resentment that I didn't get what I deserved. And I'm a victim. And that's also always directed towards the person. Resentment and bitterness. Even though you might say it's directed towards a person, it's not. There's always a person on the tail end of that you blame for stuff. And if there isn't, you start to blame God. And the biggest way you can blame God, like the most anger you get towards God, how you finally settle it once and for all, is you stop believing in God. And then you focus on being resentful towards other people. So on one hand, you've got gratitude. I got more than what I deserved. Somebody's looking out for me. And on the other hand, you have bitterness and resentment. I got the short end of the stick. I deserve better. And entitlement, in its most grotesque manifestations, becomes this resentment and bitterness towards your circumstances. Now, resentment gets a bad rap. There's some value in resentment. Sometimes resentment is because you want somebody to step up to the plate and fix things. I'm not going to get into that today. I've lectured on that many times before. I think these are the two ways people view the world. And I think we actually have the power to choose how we want to view the world. And you can cultivate gratitude. And you can cultivate entitlement. And that's your choice, and stop blaming your parents for it. Like I said, even a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old has some moral agency. What to speak of all you guys? And so the plus side of we got all this extra time that we can spend blaming our parents and exonerating ourselves and seeing them and playing the victim and being entitled. The flip side of that is we have all this time and we can start to think about all the things in life to be grateful for. And we can choose to view the world differently. I actually think gratitude is the natural state of a healthy soul. I think gratitude is actually, it's not just that there's two ways to view the world and you pick which one you want. Like, do you like chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream? It's your choice. I don't think it's like that. I think gratitude is actually what's happening. And entitlement is delusion. I think an objective, clear analysis of our existential situation should lead us to feeling profound daily gratitude. And if you're not feeling profound daily gratitude, you are diseased. You're an illusion. You have some sort of cognitive dysfunction. You need therapy. You're alive. Somebody gave you a brain and a body. The world's set up in such a way where there's this oxygen exchange and a water exchange, and there's land and water, and the water's potable, and our bodies heal themselves, and it's like we can think. I mean, it's just like we get all these incredible blessings just given to us. It's like, here you go. You get a body, you get a brain, you get the ability to profoundly think about the nature of your existential situation in a way that no other living entity, no other species is able to do. We have recursion in our thought process and in our language. We can stack ideas on top of one another. I went to the temple with my family for the program today, and then we're going to eat something, and here's what we're going to eat. Then we're going to go do this. You could stack one idea on top of another and form a big run-on thought in your mind. Animals can't do that. There's no animal language like that. But even a small child can do that. My 3-year-old can do that. I think that gratitude is how we should all feel every day. We should have a baseline of gratitude, and we should cultivate it, and we should choose it, and we should look at the world carefully to see all the things that we have to be grateful for. And we should start to feel grateful towards people, and eventually we should feel grateful towards the ultimate person. The flip side of it is you get into this like entitlement that you deserve everything you got. Nobody's done you any favors. Everything's on you. Actually, you deserve better than what you got. Now I'm resentful. And you start going down this road. You're jealous of people. You want what they have. That's jealousy. You want what they have. Actually, the word jealousy, interestingly enough, is from zelos in Greek, which is where you get the word zealous from. And jealousy was originally a positive thing. You saw somebody and they inspired you. But because we have this totally screwed up way of viewing the world, instead of seeing people who are good at something and being inspired by them, we instead look at people who have something and we hate them for it. That's the screwed up mentality that people have. And we actually take language and we corrupt it. So the word zealous and zeal and being keen and inspired by somebody else has now become being jealous of them. You have envy. There's envidere. Videre is from vid, to know. It means to see. So you see into something. Now, of course, you could see into something and be introspective, which also means seeing within something, seeing into something, and good things can come out of it. But somehow the word envy is meant when you look into things and you start to really hate the other person and wish ill on them. You following this? We have malice, which is from mal, bad intentions. Malevolence, bad feelings. These are all on that other side. That I have nothing to be grateful for. People are my enemy. If I see somebody who has something, I don't get inspired by that. I actually feel hateful for them and I want to take it away. And then in its most extreme form, it becomes sadism. It becomes pleasure at somebody else's suffering. All the terms I mentioned before, envy, jealousy. Jealousy, they have something I want it. Maybe there's enough for both of us. Envy is like I wish ill on you. It's resentment, I'm bitter towards you. Malevolence, I'm like wishing ill on you. But like the worst form of that is you actually enjoy seeing somebody suffer. The word sadism is relatively new in English. It comes from the Marquis de Sade, the French philosopher, who, if you read him, he's not a sadist. He was a liberal, and he had like an adventurous sex life, but he didn't actually torture people and derive sexual gratification from it. And so the word sadism developed from his writings, but it really indicates that you want to see somebody suffer, and you actually enjoy seeing them suffer. It's not just that you want what they have, you want them not to have it, and that's enough to make you happy. You follow this? It's the worst. Mediators want to avoid this at all costs. Mediators never want you to humiliate the other person. When you humiliate the other person, they're willing to lose a lot just to make you lose a little. And there's no reconciliation. They're willing to die like several times over to make you suffer. And it brings out the worst in people. This bottomless pit of just wanting to drag people down even when you go down yourself. Have you guys ever experienced these emotions before? The answer would be to nod your head yes. That's the correct answer. If you're not, you're full of shit. So, we need to understand what to avoid, and we need to start to look for the right thing, for the right vision, for the right understanding. And I think just actually fathoming our existence and the blessing of our very existence as human beings on this planet, capable of deeply thinking about the nature of reality, is enough to get anybody on the gratitude train. Even you're poor. Even if you're living paycheck to paycheck. Even if you're disabled. Even if you're lonely. Even if you've got issues. Serious problems. Doing a hard time. Whatever it is. You're alive. You can think. You have a body. What'd you do to deserve that? Just woke up here with all these great things. But like that entitlement, you just think like, whatever you got, I deserve that. What don't I have? Like my brother Scott went to Mexico. He built some houses for some people. This is going back. I was 8, so we're going back. I'm 49 today, so we're going back 31 years. It would have been in the early 80s or something like that. Maybe 82, 83, my brother went to Mexico. He was 13 or 14. I would have been 10 or 11. And he met kids in Mexico, and he came back and he told me, he said that the kids in Mexico, like when he was building houses for them, they would come out and they would show them their toys. They'd be like, I have this toy, and I have this toy, and I have this toy. And he says that he was used to hearing people saying, I want this thing, and I want that thing, and I want that thing. But then he just went down, 2 hours across the border to like little shanty towns where they were building houses. And people were talking about what they had and being grateful for what they had. Remember that? You remember telling me that? That stuck with me. I think we all have the ability to choose gratitude, to choose to see the amazing situation we're in that trumps whatever we're going through that's bad. And we should have a baseline of gratitude, of happiness, of voluntary indebtedness that makes us want to give back as our just baseline of reality. And whenever we deviate from that, we should understand that we're diseased. It's like if you get a sore throat, you got to make an adjustment because you're getting sick. So you put on a jacket, or maybe don't go out or rest. And we should immediately, when we start to feel entitled or resentful or envious or sadistic or malicious, do we start to go down that road? We should freak out. Like I think I got to take a test. I think I got the vid. I got to go take a test. I got to put a blanket on. I got to sequester myself from the world. I got to reassess things. You guys following this? So, I think everything you guys said was great. And I don't think what I said trumps it or anything like that. But this is what I've been thinking about. There's two basic ways to view the world. I'm either in this world, I'm feeling like I'm actually very fortunate. And I've been blessed. And if people say well, you've been blessed because you're white, male, landowner, in California, something like that, right? No, I'm trying to find like the bare bones minimums. No matter what you're going through in life, you've been blessed. And we need to connect with that and be grateful for that and use that as a template to springboard off into life. And when you do that, then you start to find all sorts of other stuff to be grateful for. You become like a gratitude hunter. You find the lesson in everything. I mean, even suffering becomes your friend. You can always land on your feet. Whatever you've been through, that's the other thing. It's like if you switch, then whatever you've been through, however hellacious it was, and however much you suffered, if you make this switch, then it's okay because you're here now. Did you follow that? I'm not saying everything you did was great. I think that's like a really dumb idea. Like, what, you're a rapist and a murderer and that's really great? Like, go tell the families of the victims. Go tell the victims. There's definitely room for remorse for mistakes you've made. Weak people can't feel remorse because they feel like if they admit their fault, then they're going to fall apart and break. And so they end up becoming professional excuse makers. Strong people, when they make a mistake, they can say, I made a mistake, and feel remorse and make amends. Because they don't feel like it's going to break them. They have a basic sense that they can like grow and it's okay and they're not a piece of shit. They might be full of it, but they're not a piece of it. I can get away with stuff here I can't get away with in Laguna. So I think we take that boilerplate, and then from that boilerplate, we start to find stuff to be grateful for. And it's such a powerful transformation. It actually changes the world in which you live. And then whatever you went through, if it led you to having this realization, then there was some value in it. That doesn't mean the person who raped you or murdered your family or cheated you or betrayed you or whatever you went through, that doesn't mean that what they did was right. It just means that by the power of your free will, you have the ability to turn anything into value. And the world can literally not throw anything at you that can knock you off your feet. Because whatever happens, I can grow from that experience because I'm responsible and I have free will. And if I grow from that experience and it gets me to a place of seeing the world for the blessing it is and being grateful, then whatever I went through got me here. Somehow or other, I ended up here. That's not the same as justifying what the person did or condoning what the person did. It does entail you forgiving them. But you don't have to think in those terms. And so it's like this weird phenomenon where if today, right now, you change your life and choose to embrace gratitude, then whatever you went through for X amount of years is okay because you wound up here. You may feel remorse you didn't get here sooner. You may feel remorse for time wasted. You may feel remorse for mistakes made along the way. But you stop hating the world because you're here. And here's great. You arrived. And all of a sudden, all the bad stuff you went through has value because you became a better person from it. And without condoning it or justifying it, you use the magical ability of free will that you've always had to make something beautiful, to make the world beautiful. Do you guys follow this? This is what I've been thinking about the last couple of days. So I think we fundamentally live in a world of grateful people and entitled people. I think the more time people have on their hands, the more they get into entitlement. I think it's a really bad use of that extra time. And you'd be better off using that time to cultivating gratitude. I think there's reasons for everybody to be grateful. I think to define what gratitude is, you got to look at entitlement, and then the flip side of entitlement, which gets into resentment and envy, and even going all the way down to sadism. I think that worldview is ultimately atheistic and dystheistic. God's either evil or doesn't exist. And I think that every theist, every conscious being who's aware of the magic of their consciousness is obliged to see the big picture. That's the right play. And nobody can take that ability away from you. You've always had it. You've had it since you were a kid. And you definitely have it now. And you can start with the boilerplate of just being grateful for being alive, and you can build on that, and it can ultimately become such a tidal wave that you can subsume and transcend everything life ever threw at you and make it into a happy ending. Make it into a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Make it into something beautiful because you always had that power. And even suffering becomes your friend. And good times and bad times become your friend. And everything you go through becomes your friend because you just keep on learning and growing and seeing what's happening. And the more introspective and thoughtful you become, the more you see, oh man, I deserved everything I got. I deserved worse. Somebody's looking out for me. I'm filled with gratitude, and it makes you compassionate towards other people, and you end up doing stuff for other people to pay it forward. And the world becomes a better place by your presence, and the world gets uplifted one person at a time when they make this shift. It's the basic shift between atheism and theism, between a dystheistic conception of divinity where God's evil to a proper conception of divinity. It's the difference between being happy and miserable. It breeds transcendence because you start seeing that there's something deeper going on, and you stop being a sensualist and a physicalist and an atheist. You give up hatred. You put down those chains. You start to find beauty wherever you go, even in the suffering. And you can give other people that vision too. And that's the panacea. That's what the world needs. And I think in a simple way, that is, the cup is half full versus the cup is half empty, or things are happening to me or they're happening for me, or I'm a victim or I'm responsible. I think what I'm saying is a fleshing out of the, if you really dig into those ideas and you really fleshed it out and thought it through and went down that rabbit hole and really laid it out, all of those different ideas are kind of touching on this stuff. Okay, what do you guys think? Yeah, loud.
I thought this was a really powerful class, and I appreciate it a lot. I was thinking that if you're grateful, it's really easy to do your work without trying to capture the results.
If you're grateful, then you're already self-satisfied, and you can do your duty without worrying so much about what the result is. If you're entitled, then you need that result. And so this fosters detachment, enables you to embrace a duty-based ethic and be happy with it. Excellent point. Excellent point. Yeah, that's what you said, duty-based. So as far as I can see, the point we just discussed kind of covers everything everybody just said. And that was one way it did so. And I hadn't thought of that. It's great. Excellent. Thank you. More? Yeah, Ryan.
Thank you for this class. It was really good. It wasn't only informative, but it was empowering to make that shift. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think the difference is between gratefulness and thankfulness?
I don't know that there is one. I guess we could look up the etymology of the word thankful. I don't know what the etymology of it is. But I worry less about the specifics of a given word and more about what the word means. So if thankfulness, Cicero, the Roman philosopher, he said that gratitude is not just the greatest of all virtues, it's the parent of all virtues. So anyway, it's not like I just came up with this on my own, like that. These kind of ideas, thank you. These kind of ideas, other people have been talking about them for millennia. So, that's not actually what he said. That was a translation of what he said. And so then I found some Roman scholars who were like, this is a terrible translation. What he actually said was feeling and showing gratitude is not only the greatest of all virtues, it's the parent of all the others. So it's gratitude that you feel as well as show. So there's a cognitive and a behavioral aspect to it. You follow? Now, does thankful necessarily communicate that cognitive and behavioral aspect? No. Does gratitude necessarily communicate that either? It does not. So both of these terms, the way they're understood now, sometimes it's kind of cheap. It's like a passing feeling of thankfulness, like you did something for me, right? But if we thought of thankfulness as this profound sense that you've helped me and therefore I have to do something to repay you or to give back or pay it forward, or I'm voluntarily in your debt because I'm thankful to you, then the words start to sound like synonyms. You follow? So when I get into a semantic battle, unless there's some clear etymology I'm aware of, even then I'm usually one to be like, oh, do you like to use the word like that? Well, let's use a word like that. Does that make sense? So semantics are important because sometimes semantics is how to understand words and how they fit together and what's being intended. But sometimes semantics becomes pedantic when people aren't able to use language, but it captures them. So could thankfulness and gratitude be synonyms? Sure. Could I define gratefulness as a feeling, but thankfulness actually means you go and do something about it? Sure, I could. I could say in my lexicon, that's what thankfulness means versus gratitude. I could do that. And the most important thing is that we understand what we're talking about. Did that make sense? Good question. More? Yeah, Darshan.
I really appreciate the class, and I think something that really kind of blew my mind is directly thinking of being a theist and how that's directly connected to having gratitude, and certainly the opposite, being atheist and how that's directly corresponds with being self-centered.
Entitled. Yeah.
Entitled. That just really kind of like.
Yeah, so when it was like physicalist versus spiritualist, theist versus atheist, I actually think that the embracing the notion that I'm a conscious being and the miracle of consciousness and that I have consciousnness and it's been given to me and it can't be materially defined and chemicals aren't conscious, but somehow I am. And that is just like the ultimate blessing. And that starts you down the road of theism. That's enough. Like that's enough of a foothold. If we play with that right, if we work with that right, that gets you to theism. You follow? Yeah. And then even if you believe in God, you can be a functional atheist. This resentful, curmudgeon, bitter, Like Shakespeare, ingratitude, thou iron-hearted fiend. It's like ingratitude in the history of world literature is defined by people all across cultures as being the worst thing. You know what the word for gratitude is in Sanskrit? This is going to blow your mind. Here's my mic drop moment. You ready? The word for gratitude in Sanskrit is kritogya. Kritogya. Gya is where you get the word gnosis from, knowledge. Knowledge of krita, of what's been done for you. Krita means done. knowledge of what's been done. When you're aware of what's been done for you, you feel gratitude. The Sanskrit word for gratitude literally means to know what's been done for you. Do you follow that? And the Sanskrit word for envy, matsara. Matsara is from mud. It's where you get the word madhu from, or sweet honey. And so it means to be intoxicated. In other words, to not see what's actually going on. To not see properly. You follow? There's other words, but that's the one. And there's other words. Dvisha is to be hateful of something, from dvish. But matsara means to be deluded, to be beguiled, to not actually see what's been done for you. So this idea that I've been trying to run with is actually there. We need to start living a life free from envy, from anger, from resentment. We need to start to actively embrace gratitude as our baseline on a daily basis. We need to commit to this. We need to change the world we live in. Like that. We have that power. We'll be happier. Other people around us will be happier. We'll see the world for what it is. It's not just like a change like, hey, the cup is half full versus the cup half. The cup's actually half full. Like if you see it clearly, it's actually half full. There's a lot there to be grateful for. Somebody threw you a half full cup. That's great. You should be grateful for that. We need to fight for this. And part of that is owning when we're not there and where we struggle. And being vulnerable about that, opening up about that, talking about it, getting it out of our system, exposing ourselves to the light. Ernest Hemingway said, don't hate the cracks. It's the only way the light gets in. We got to learn to show our cracks. Let some light in. Not have all the answers. Yes, sir.
So, do you think the cup's half full because we're grateful, or are we grateful because the cup is half full?
You want to do a chicken versus the egg thing? Come on, man. Really? You want to play that game? The cup is half full. It's there. It's sitting there. You walk into a room, the cup was half full before you got there. It's half full while you're there. When you leave, it's still half full. We don't live in a solipsistic world where we create everything around us. Things exist, independent of you. Gravity, for instance. Entropy, for instance. How many people don't want to die? Everybody. Still, everybody dies. Things erode. We live in a world where we're not in full control of what happens. We are in a world where we can control how we take it. The cup is full. It's full for you. It's got what you need. It gets fuller the more you recognize that. It already was like that. It always is like that. It always will be like that. If you want something to look at to start you on this path, look at the miracle of your consciousness. And we also have this amazing ability to choose growth, to choose finding lessons, to choose to become a better person. Like somebody gets molested or raped, and then they become an activist to help people who've been through that. Somebody becomes alcoholic, and then they get sober, and they help other people. We have this amazing ability to take the worst thing that happens in your life and turn it into something that makes you a better person. So if the person who suffered the most ends up being the most loving and the most compassionate. You have that power. Guys like Viktor Frankl, who actually lived through Auschwitz, have been beating this drum. Happiness is an inside job. No one can take it away from you. You carry sunshine in your pocket. You were given like the ultimate ace up your sleeve to learn from everything that life throws at you. It makes you happy. It makes other people happy. It makes you do your duty and not be so attached. You can glide through this world. You can start to see forgetfulness as a blessing, old age as a blessing, death as a blessing, loss as a blessing, as an inspiration to not waste time, as a way of moving forward when you got a little slow on the uptake. You weren't moving the way you should. And so somebody came along and nudged you in the right direction because they loved you that much without really putting it in your face. So you could still be a resentful jerk if you wanted to be. Never took that away from you. This loving deity pushing and prodding you in the right direction without ever actually forcing you. That's what I've been thinking about lately. Just this a basic way of changing the world you live in. And the incredible empowerment we have to do that. That's independent of what the external world throws at us. Final thoughts? Yes, Kumi. Goodbye, IGTV. What do you got?